Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone. Excited to have everyone here. I think we're going to give it just 1 or 2 minutes. We're going to get kicked off pretty shortly here, just in the interest of time. But we're going to give just a little bit more time as people might be switching over from other virtual meetings. So hang tight. We'll get started in just a minute or two. But thanks so much for joining us today. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday morning so far. It's a little bit overcast where I am in Georgia, but it feels great out. Fall has arrived.
Where in Georgia are you, David?
Specifically, I'm up in Cumming.
Okay. That's
Where-
Gwinnett County. I'm from Duluth. Born and raised in Duluth and live in Monroe, Georgia now.
Okay, there you go.
Working in Atlanta.
Nice. Yep, I get to work from home a decent amount of the time, which is great. We used to have an office up in Alpharetta, which was closer to me, but now I get to drive into Midtown when I head into the office. Careful of the fake fall in the South.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first cold snap is kind of hit. So yeah, we're probably going to have that. I don't know, what do they call it? Indian summer, or
Yeah.
that next last gasp of summer that
exactly
crops up in. I haven't looked far enough ahead in the weather app, but all right. We are at 12:03, so we're even a little bit past the 2 minutes I was going to give for people to wander in from their other meetings. It looks like we have 68 people on the line. We have about double that registered, so our numbers may grow. But in the interest of time, let's go ahead and kick things off. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. This is the Power Platform Master Series. Today's topic is the Power Platform Conference, which happened last week out in Las Vegas. We're going to be doing kind of a recap of the conference and tell you all about the fun stuff that happened out in Vegas. I'm David Hathaway, so I'm going to be leading us for this morning. Before we dive into the content, I do just want to call out, I think everyone, when you joined, we have the meeting set up to keep cameras off just in the interest of bandwidth, since we do have a good number of participants. And I think when you joined muted, but you have the option to unmute. Since we do have about 60 people on the line, I'm going to recommend you post any questions in the chat. I have a number of colleagues and peers of mine who are also in the meeting with me. They can answer questions in the chat in real time. So I'll direct your questions there. If we have a little bit of time for, active verbal or auditory Q&A at the end, we'll open it up at that point. But just to make sure we get through all the content in the time we have allotted, let's at least initially throw those questions in the chat. We might circle back on them and dive into some topics if there's particular interest around some of them and we have time. All right, so also just to level set, so the Power Platform Master Series is a monthly series that my team has been putting on. They're all publicly available and public facing. So anyone can register for them. And really, it's an educational series focused on the Power Platform, which for those of you maybe who stumbled in and have no idea where you are and what you're listening to today, Microsoft has a low-code platform. So it makes it very easy to develop digital solutions and get them deployed in a really rapid, accelerated manner. That's what the Power Platform is. Myself and all my peers, we're specialists in that. That's what we do all day, every day here at Microsoft. So we're putting this on to help educate just the community and everyone out there around, what's coming on the platform, what are the new announcements, what happened at the conference. That's what we're doing today. What are best practices, all these sorts of things. So the intended audience is just for anyone who has interest in the Power Platform. You're curious about it. You're in the platform every day developing it. Maybe you're an admin. Just anyone who has interest in the platform. We do these once a month. They're all virtual, so you can join. And the intent is just to educate and learn, just help kind of spread the word around the Power Platform. So as I said, today's topic is the conference, the Microsoft Power Platform conference that was held in Las Vegas last week. So basically, what is there to say about the conference? Well, I mean, I kind of regret to say it, but what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So there's not much to say. Just kidding. Sorry, had to make the joke up top. But with that out of the way, let's first talk Microsoft Power Platform Conference by the numbers. So we had over 6,400 attendees at this conference. I believe last year we had around 4,000, so almost 50% growth. And some of my peers might be able to check me on the numbers here, but a lot of people showed up, and I think the conference space that was booked for this year, last year and this year, hit capacity, might have even run slightly over capacity. So needless to say, the community is huge. The community is growing. There's a lot of interest and energy around the conference. And even the conference planners are underestimating how much interest and demand there is just to engage with the Power Platform and the community. And I think Chris just dropped a note in the chat around, 2022 sold out at 4,000, and then we were over 50% growth, which is awesome. There were 162 different sessions across the week. I believe this includes both, the workshops kind of for the 2 days preceding and the 1 day following the conference. There's in-depth hands-on workshops that were run. They had breakout sessions, the keynotes, 5 different keynotes, which is the next slide, that were delivered in the conference. So just a lot of great activity from the conference. And so for those who maybe were able to attend and are on today, or maybe you were keeping an eye out and just saw some of the announcements, but maybe just want to get a fuller picture and get some context around what the announcements mean, maybe that's why you're here today. For anyone who was at the conference, just quick poll question. If you saw any of the announcements, do you have a favorite announcements for the Power Platform conference? And maybe what was that? And the responses that you put into the poll will sort of form out a word cloud. So just curious to hear if there's specific stuff that you guys already picked up on from the conference that you guys are, particularly excited about or interested in learning more about. Looks like we got some PVA licensing, process mining, Copilot, of course. Someone's putting in names, Chris Simmons. Flow designer, not aware. Yeah, some of you are showing up and you're like, hey, I'm here to learn about the announcements. I haven't heard any of the announcements. That's why I'm here. That's totally okay. Dark mode. Yes, cannot wait for dark mode. Power pipelines. Yeah, so we're going to touch on a bunch of these. Copilot is certainly kind of the most frequent one that's popping up in this poll. So that's awesome. Basically, to sum up some of the themes of the announcements and themes across the conference, it really covers co-pilots and community. So a lot of talk around AI and AI with natural language, which as Microsoft is putting that into our cloud and into all the different products we have, we refer to that as our co-pilots. So we have multiple co-pilots per product, and we'll talk about those. And then also community, like the community growth around the platform. Previewed it just a minute ago with the demand for the conference specifically, but Charles Lamotta actually in his opening keynote dropped some really critical numbers around the community that is engaging with the Power Platform. So 5.2 million monthly active users in the community. And so that's people that are engaged, they're answering questions, they're asking questions, they're posting content, blog posts, engaging in different user groups. So those are people that are, actively engaged, not just, tinkering with a platform and using it kind of on the side and exploring it. These are people who are, pretty dedicated to, and we're like in the millions on that. Just to zoom out and look at the platform all up, 33 million monthly active users on the platform. And again, to compare that to where we were last year, it's similar to the Power Platform like conference attendee growth. I think last year at the conference, they were saying we were around 20 or 22 million monthly active users. And we've increased that like 50% year over year. And when you're already like in the tens of millions, like a 50% increase is just, it's super impressive to me. And then to dive into co-pilots, I think Charles mentioned over 125,000 different organizations have experienced Power Platform co-pilots or one of the different co-pilots, whether that's Power Apps co-pilot, Power Automate co-pilot, but over 125,000 different organizations have been engaging with co-pilots on the Power Platform, which is just incredible and super impressive. So to dive in, the way we're going to structure things a little bit is kind of product by product. So we're going to start here with some of the Power Apps announcements. Obviously, we're going to, Copilot was a big theme. So the capability to extend Power Apps Copilot was one of the key announcements for Power Apps. So initially, Power Apps Copilot was able to answer questions in natural language, help different users, build and use applications, make that development process faster. Now we've added extensibility to Power Apps Copilot. So you can actually, and this is actually a little video, so you can ask this Copilot questions around, based on public sources on the internet. So it can go pull in information off of websites. And you basically get to dictate which websites it's crawling for information. So it can reason over both websites, your structured data in Dataverse that maybe your app is working with, and then also unstructured data from documents. So you can see here you have like 4 different websites. And then you can also continue to augment and build out the capabilities of your Power Apps Copilot within the Power Virtual Agent Studio editor. So just increasing the power of Copilot. I was remiss just jumping into Power Apps Copilot to even mention one of the key announcements was Power Apps Copilot is now generally available. So it wasn't a public preview. It's now GA. It has all the full support. So that's super exciting as well. And then the last thing, I think there was one other thing around Power Apps Copilot that I'm blanking on. But yeah, a lot of great. Oh, the other thing about Power Apps Copilot is, it's growing in its capabilities. So every week, Power Apps Copilot, and really all the copilots across not only the Power Platform, but the whole Microsoft cloud, they're adding skills to basically their tool belt or to their repertoire, or whatever metaphor you want to use. But the co-pilots are getting better and better, more skilled, can do more things, can take more actions, understand better what you're asking for. So it's just super exciting to see, where we've started with Copilot, how the product team is building more features and functionality into that as well. So unsurprisingly, lots of investment for Powerup's Copilot. So one of the other capabilities that I don't particularly have a screenshot for, so I landed it on this slide around Powerup's Copilot, is that also for the experience within model-driven apps, you can have Copilot automatically summarize records that are surfaced within a model-driven app. So when you click into a particular record and are viewing the form, Powerup's Copilot can surface that. So for individuals who are new to a business process or just trying to, at a glance, get some context on if it's like a sales record or whatever the record is, just sort of summarizing all the different data points about that record, highlighting those key points, what the most recent activity and changes on those records are. Powerup's Copilot can help deliver a quick, concise summary just to help with that understanding of what the record is and maybe even next steps. So that's Powerup's Copilot. A lot of capabilities both for Canvas apps and model-driven apps. Also, UI updates was a big theme, again, for Canvas apps and model-driven apps. For Canvas apps, modernized controls. So a lot of the controls originally for building Canvas apps needed a good bit of working to make them look kind of modern. We've rolled the platform out a number of years ago, and those controls were due for a refresh. So those modernized controls are now rolled out for the Canvas App Studio. They've also just facilitated the ability to customize the look and feel of those controls by leveraging a theming engine, which not only provides additional capabilities to customize the user interface and the look and feel, but also allows you to set up patterns so that you're not spending as much time customizing the user interface. And then model-driven apps also got a modern refresh for the user interface there, which aligns to the Fluent UI that a lot of the other Microsoft applications, particularly our SaaS applications, leverage. And then the last thing I want to call out for Power Apps, last kind of key announcement coming out of the platform was that Canvas apps are getting offline capabilities. Now, this is particularly when you're leveraging Dataverse, which is our native data platform on the back end. But Canvas apps can now store on the local device memory or on the local device storage data from Dataverse and basically sync that when you have the network connection. So that then you can launch the app and use it when you don't have network connectivity. And the app's going to function fine. It's going to cache the changes in memory. And then when you get that network connection, it's all handled in the back end. It's going to sync those changes back up to the cloud so that the data in the cloud is constantly fresh. But even when you don't have network connectivity, you still have a functional Canvas app. So that's existed on the model-driven app side for a while. Really exciting to get that on the Canvas app side. So you both have the flexibility from a UI perspective, but also those offline capabilities.
Hey, David, real quick, just to add here, right? So for those that have been stressed about building offline capability in Canvas apps for a long time, right? The good old-fashioned save data, load data, which really was kind of the true definition of fancy caching. This is taking advantage of the exact same technology that the model-driven apps use. So that's why there's going to be a limited set of connectors that support that right out of the gate. Very specifically, of course, Dataverse is key to that. That's where that technology comes from the model-driven side, but truly localizing that data so it's not just kind of sessionized cache. It is truly stored and safe with the device offline, and then can be synced up at the appropriate time. So very, very cool advancement. It's one of those that we've been, many customers have been begging for. For those of us here in the southern U.S., right, we know we deal with a lot of energy sector customers, and of course they've got quite a few offline scenarios as well, and that's true across the globe, right? So lots of opportunities in unique scenarios of low latency or no connectivity. So very, very exciting stuff.
Apparently kept saying, keep an eye out for more announcements coming at Ignite. So just to give you the full conference experience, I figure, I'll say the same. So it's just like you were there at the conference, no different. All right, so next, moving on to Power Automate announcements. The new Power Automate Studio UI with Copilot that you see here. You get Copilot on this left-hand bar over here, similar to Power Apps. But you can use that to both build out your flows, to edit and customize your flows, to work with different parameters, and just do all that in an accelerated manner. You can leverage Copilot to help you write custom functions with PowerFX. Or do any other custom logic like that. Copilot's there in the new Studio user interface. You also get this flyout bar on the left-hand side for each of your steps, just a little bit more space, a little bit better layout just from a functional standpoint, just to work with the different parameters for any given trigger or step within your Power Automate flows. This canvas in the middle, you can zoom in it and out of. So sometimes with a more complex flow, it was, when you open up all the different steps, you end up with this sprawling big thing, and it's kind of all at the same zoom level. And where am I? And I want to reference something else. It can be kind of tricky just from a visual standpoint to navigate your way around. This UI is making all of that so much easier. So the new Studio UI is generally available. Power Automate Copilot, I'm pretty sure, has been generally available, or at least that was an announcement as well at the conference. So just from a maker experience, continuing to add, functionality and value to accelerate that process. One specific thing that got really rave applause and reviews at the conference is this little bad boy. So when you're writing Power FX expressions, particularly for Power Automate flows, this is also applicable to PVA, and I have a bullet and an announcement for Power Virtual Agents. But you now have this little button right here. You can expand your Power FX editor. And when you click that button, you get so much more real estate to write your PowerFX expressions, a lot easier to write out those expressions, see all your different functions that you can call with PowerFX. It's one of those really small, just like quality of life updates, but for anyone who's been writing PowerFX expressions in a Power Automate flow, like you immediately know that like this little UI update is just is going to feel great when you're building your Power Automate flow. So a lot of excitement around that. Charles Lamonti even made a reference to the hype and the excitement around just this like minor UI update. But sometimes the best gifts come in small packages, so to speak. So a lot of excitement there.
Yeah, just to add, right? So for those that were there, right, we all got a good laugh at the applause and Charles's reaction, and to David's point, he was talking about it even a couple of days later about how funny it was to him that everyone was so excited, right? And for those of us that have been building Power Automate cloud flows and using regular expressions, that little bar didn't do a lot, and so now with more real estate, more capabilities, and of course the ability to have a mini Copilot help you create functions or author functions based on sample data. That's super cool. And it didn't show, unfortunately, in the previous screenshot, but even zooming in and looking around your Power Automate flows, collapsing these sections, there has just been a ton of user experience updates to this, this new UI, and it's so cool and so much fun to dig around. And then I don't think we had a slide for it, and I'm sorry, David, if I'm stealing your thunder, but we even, one of the other things that got a huge reaction was having Copilot within Power Automate to ask it to describe the flow. So if
Yeah.
you've ever taken over a Power Automate flow from someone else and have no idea what its purpose is, you can now ask Copilot and it will give you an educated guess. So really, really fun stuff.
Yeah. That is kind of a parallel theme to doing Canvas app descriptions based on generated by AI, which I have a slide on that in the governance section, but great call out, Chris, around Copilot facilitating with understanding, hey, my colleague built this thing, what the heck does it do? Have Copilot, help you with, accelerate your understanding of what the big idea is. Two other things that I don't really have screenshots for. The second one, because it's not available till November, but flow versioning, that's going to be really big from like a governance, from an ALM perspective, just from doing things really at that enterprise level. That's been long requested. It's finally here. Process mining as well. We announced that back at the Build conference. Satya announced that. So that's out there and live, and we have Copilot for process mining. That Copilot has now jumped from a private preview into public preview, so you can opt in and start playing with it. Not GA yet, but also keep an eye out for more Power Automate announcements at Ignite. I'm not saying it'll go GA at Ignite because that's a pretty fast turnaround, but there's more to come at Ignite, and certainly all these co-pilots eventually are going to be GA. I think process mining really, when it comes to Power Platform, is maybe the only one that's not GA at this point. So we keep rolling out additional functionality and getting things ready to go to just roll out for prime time. And I think also maybe good to caveat just when we talk about things going GA, because of the nature of the regulatory environment, generally we're referring to things going GA for tenants that are based in the United States. So for some of you that maybe work for enterprises or organizations that might have a tenant based over in the UK or the EU, we're definitely working on getting that stuff rolled out over there. Just from a regulatory standpoint, we're still working through some of those hurdles. So it's coming. Thank you for your patience. Bear with us. But on the US side, like all these announcements about it's in public preview or it's in GA, primarily applicable for the US. All right. So Power Virtual Agents is the next one up. There was a lot of really good content here. Obviously, the past where are we in the year? The past year, just about 12 months, generative AI, leveraging natural language has been like the hot focus topic, especially when it comes to AI. So Power Virtual Agents obviously has been, the product group has just been rolling out so much functionality. It's been on a tear, tons of excitement around Power Virtual Agents. For whatever reason, they didn't drop a blog post for me to grab screenshots from, and I didn't have time to connect with a product group to see if they could provide any. So I'll do my best to summarize it, but we'll dive in. And I think we might have a session coming up on Power Virtual Agents, but we can certainly follow up with you guys and dive into a deeper conversation if you want to look at any of this closer. But the big update from the conference was around Copilot capabilities getting upgraded to GPT 3.5 Turbo with 16,000 tokens, which is a long name. What does it all mean? Don't worry about the name. It means the Copilot has a more capable AI model underneath it. And the data that you can feed that AI model, you can feed it more data at once, and it can also return a longer, more thorough, deeper answer to an end user. So that's basically what you need to know about, upgrading the model on the back end. From the authoring canvas and kind of the the PVA Studio point of view, we've been bringing together Power Virtual Agents and then also kind of the Azure bot building services within the Microsoft Cloud to share the same studio space. So whether you're kind of coming at it from a pro development standpoint, or you're coming at it kind of from the low code side and just accelerating your development, everyone's going to be using the same canvas. There's going to be extensibility to do custom coding and custom actions. There's improved variable editing so that as your debugging flows, you can see what value a variable might be carrying. So whether that's numeric or maybe a string value, just a better functionality for building out your chatbot topics and doing the debugging process. Similar to what we showed off with Power Automate, you have an expanded PowerFX editor. So when you're building PowerFX expressions for your Power Virtual Agents, you just have more real estate to do that. Copilot can help with that experience. So just an all-around better kind of like quality of life, better UI to do that. Plugin actions is really exciting. Basically being able to leverage connectors on the Power Platform as plugins with Copilot and with Power Virtual Agents and AI models so that you can interact out with other different services. You can actually not just have a conversation with language with your AI assistants, but also take action. And we showed some of this off at Build from the context of like Windows itself, but you can actually start building them out yourself within Power Virtual Agents. And then also, historically, Power Virtual Agents has relied and continues to a certain extent to rely on Power Automate to execute some of the actions and workflows. But now we have native capabilities within Power Virtual Agents to do calls out to HTTP endpoints without having to leverage a Power Automate flow. So just simplifying the architecture a little bit, specifically for this scenario. Just great features, great functionality rolling into Power Virtual Agents. And I mentioned back at the top in the section with Power Apps, you can extend those copilots from the Power Virtual Agents editor. So a lot of kind of synergy between the different services on the platform, Power Virtual Agents supporting extensibility with Power Apps Copilot. And then the last bullet here is document uploading capability. So you used to be able to upload documents into Dataverse and it would leverage the Graph API on the back end from like a architectural standpoint would only consume like a portion of the document and reason over that small subset. But again, as we're upgrading the AI model on the back end and we can feed it more data, now these documents that you upload, the AI can be looking at kind of the full document and ingesting more content to provide more relevance. You can upload those documents and then have your chatbot kind of help the end user understand it, summarize those documents, take action based on what the documents say. So a lot of really good capability there with Power Virtual Agents. And of course, to continue our theme from the conference, stay tuned for more announcements coming for Power Virtual Agents at Ignite. It's funny, I think the product groups were like just having the conference so close to Ignite. I think they had to kind of like split some of the announcements so they have hype for both. So maybe next year we'll get the timing a little bit better, but there are more announcements coming at Ignite, which honestly like blows my mind because there's so much good content coming out just from the conference. Power Pages is the next thing we're going to talk through. So some really good announcements for Power Pages. Power Pages Copilot, generally available, again, primarily for tenants that are based in the US. And this is for both doing designing and theming within the Power Pages Studio, but then also a Power Pages Copilot for those who are customizing and doing extensibility within VS Code. So it's almost like that GitHub Copilot, or it might be a variation of that actually, just specifically, focused on Power Pages. But however the product group has architected it under the covers, you have Copilot experience both when you're in the Power Page Studio working with it from a low code perspective, or when you're diving into the code and really doing those customizations. So you have the capability, the assistance, the power to accelerate your development of Power Pages no matter where you're doing that development. So that's super exciting for Power Pages. And also want to plug next week's Master Series on October 26th, but I got that date wrong. It's October 18th. So let's see if I can strike this with a pen. Yep, this should be the 18th. So right on the screen. Apologies for the bad handwriting. Is focused on Power Pages. So one of my peers, Jeff Bennett, is going to be leading that session. So we'll do a deep dive, a little bit light on the conference announcements for Power Pages, but we'll dive into like all the Copilot functionality and features, what you can do with it, how to think about pages when you have use cases for your organization, understanding when to use Power Pages, maybe when to use Power Apps. So that's our next Master Series session. So you just want to plug that. We'll have a registration link at the end of the presentation. So just plug for that. It's coming up. And of course, the product group has told us, keep an eye out for more Power Pages announcements at Ignite. So more announcements coming. All right, so at this point, we've kind of covered some of the key service pillars. Some of the other key announcements were really around governance. Governance was a huge theme, or has been a huge theme at all of last year's conference and this year's conference. Obviously, AI kind of took the center stage, but as we grow on this platform, governance is always kind of close to the heart of a lot of people who are responsible for overseeing the platform, managing it, fostering community and growth, and generating value from the platform. And we want to support them. The platform is built both for business users who maybe don't have coding experience. We have all the extensibility for pro code. And then we're also really providing and investing in tooling capabilities for everyone who has to manage the platform to do so in a really robust enterprise-grade fashion. So one of the key announcements was environment routing. So this is all around just when users land on the platform, you can turn it on in the admin center. Environment routing, it's going to land new makers in their own personal development environment as opposed to default. Everyone gets frustrated with the default environment. You can now bypass new makers right past the default environment so that there's less stuff getting caught up in the default environment. And now when they log in, they're right in their own environment. Up here, it shares their name. From an admin perspective, when you go look at the admin list, you can see their environment here. It shows that it was created by that individual, and that becomes their own sandbox to do development work, to tinker. It's isolated from everyone else. You still have all the insights and all the telemetry into what they're building. So you have full control of what's going on within their sandbox, but they're not necessarily intermingled with everyone else. So that's super exciting for environment routing and just managing the platform at a high level. Super exciting announcement there, and just helps a lot when it comes to like best practices around managing that default environment. So another thing on the governance, another announcement was just pipeline enhancements. So this is actually a hyperlink where you can click to the specific announcement page that focuses just on these capabilities here. But if you'll hang with me, we'll talk through what that looks like. So from an application lifecycle management standpoint, we have had pipelines to do deployment of solutions from development environments into test environments, and then test environments maybe to QA, and then eventually into production environments. So that's a relatively new feature in the platform. Has been around for, I think, about a year. We're adding new capabilities there so that these pipelines can be run with service principles, which allows enterprises to follow the principle of least privileged access. So this is, from an ALM, from a management perspective, has been a big ask. The product group has gotten this done going into the product. So that's super exciting. So now makers who develop a solution, who request to deploy into the next environment, that can go through an approval process with whoever the right person is to make that approval. And then once the approval happens, that maker is now empowered to basically say, hey, go do the deployment process, but they don't need the privileges to their user account to go run that pipeline. You can run it with that service principle. So that's awesome. In addition, similar to what Chris was saying with doing a summary of a Power Automate flow, we have AI capabilities to generate descriptions of apps. So as you build out like a catalog of apps that are, have done architecture reviews, are ready to go, ready to be shared broadly across your organization, just in terms of keeping track, helping individuals identify, find applications to meet their needs, having descriptions to help people understand what applications do, what functionality is in it. You can accelerate that process of writing out that description, right? No developer likes taking all the time to thoroughly comment their code. AI can help with that. No developer likes taking the time to describe what the app that they just spent a day building, right? Not a week, not a month, a day, because it's Power Apps. Maybe ambitious, but maybe a few days building. They don't want to have to take a lot of time. They want to keep building, move on to the next exciting thing. AI can help write out that description. And then also for those deployment notes as well, you can leverage AI to do some notes for those deployments, for traceability, for auditability, and just really robust application lifecycle management. So pipeline enhancements. So this screenshot is kind of showing setting up that a service principal is going to own the pipeline, doing the deployment, adding deployment notes here. Look, we have a note. AI generated content can have mistakes, so please have the humans review it. That's why it's not autopilot, it's copilot. And then doing the approval process when someone requests a new deployment. So for other governance announcements, the last one is Power Platform Advisor. So this is in some ways almost like a co-pilot for admins, but more from a maintenance and just servicing the platform, keeping the platform clean, and managing resources perspective. Basically, this is an AI advisor that's going to recommend to admins, hey, here's some steps you can do to secure your platform, to clean things up. You have these orphaned apps. Hey, the highest priority thing based on, security being first and then managing resources being next. Here's a high impact item that you can tackle to help make the platform a better space. So just directing admins for where to go, providing them a really easy pane of glass to go take action on those items, leveraging AI to help facilitate the admin experience as well, right? We're not just giving AI to the end users. We're not just giving AI to those who are building solutions. We're also giving AI to the admins to help them manage the platform, which is wonderful, and I love it. So this is in private preview. If you're interested in joining, hit the link. I would guess that that's filling up really fast if it isn't already full, but that's the link there. It might be a waiting list. I'd have to follow up with the product group to know exactly where that is. But yeah, if you're interested in joining, hit the link. This feature is coming to public preview eventually, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be super helpful for those that are in charge of managing the platform. And of course, keep an eye out for even more governance announcements coming at Ignite. This next section that we're going to cover is really interesting because it's kind of a focused piece of the platform, but a piece of the platform that provides a lot of value for organizations, especially those that have deep investments within SAP, which especially for our enterprise customers is a lot of different organizations. So we've rolled out a solution template to help build solutions to leverage the SAP connector on the Power Platform and to streamline the user interface and make it easier to work with the SAP backend. So we're adding capabilities there to basically quickly iterate and build user interfaces that are more user-friendly and easier to work with than maybe what's natively available in SAP. And I have a quick little video here that kind of explains the solution template. So I'm going to run this and then talk a little bit through.
Unlock the innovation you need with Microsoft's SAP procurement template for Power Platform. Transform
Don't
the
give
way
me a
you
thumbs
view
up
and
that
work
audio
with
is coming
SAP
through.
data so you can adapt and thrive in a quickly evolving world. Introducing the SAP procurement template for Power Platform by Microsoft, designed to unlock innovation and accelerate your time to value. You can access the template from Microsoft AppSource. The SAP procurement template contains the building blocks you need to quickly and easily set up solutions that carry out core SAP purchasing processes, such as vendor, requisition, purchase order, goods receipt, and invoice management. Power Automate flows automate processes behind the scenes while you interact with a streamlined view of your SAP data. Simplifying and automating allows you to optimize the purchasing process, drive down days payable outstanding, reduce manual invoice reconciliations, and capture early payment discounts. You can continue to break down data silos and drive additional operational efficiencies by extending your solution to support your existing legacy core capabilities, connecting data across multiple systems of record to complete a workflow, and by meeting your users where they are, whether in Microsoft Teams or other collaborative experiences. Modernizing and extending your SAP system makes it work for you. You'll reduce costs, enhance employee experiences, improve operational efficiencies, and increase data-backed decision-making. Get started innovating with Microsoft's SAP procurement template for Power Platform.
All right, so some of the key value drivers here for this template is we've seen at Microsoft that for organizations that are leveraging the Power Platform to work with SAP on the back end, a lot of these use cases have just generated really, really incredible ROI. And so we're looking to dive in and lean in with the organizations that we're working with here at Microsoft to help drive that value for your organization. So that's a little bit of why we're developing these solution templates, because we really look at it as, value for you is what we want to, help achieve and what your goals are. So we've been seeing a lot of high value there. And so that's why we're investing in it. We see time to value dropping by leveraging sort of the combination of Power Platform and SAP, reducing technical debt because customizing and building out things natively within SAP traditionally is a very time-consuming and expensive process. You can move a lot faster and generally do so at a lot lower expense by leveraging the capabilities and the connectors in the Power Platform. As long as SAP keeps supporting their core APIs, these solutions are going to be viable. So we think that, developing solutions here is good. You know, they're going to be long-standing solutions. Microsoft is the furthest thing from, you know, we're continuing to invest, accelerating investment in the Power Platform. So Power Platform is going to be around for a long time. SAP has been around for a long time and likely will continue to be around for a long time. So you don't have to worry about things breaking. And then again, maximizing those existing IT investments. Organizations that have adopted SAP, Microsoft included, we're running a lot of stuff in the back end with SAP, but we've started layering in Power Platform solutions even for ourselves. You know, we don't, sometimes it's appropriate to rip and replace that core system. A lot of times not. Leave that core system where it is. But if you need new modern ways of interacting with it, Power Platform can certainly be a great way to do that within your organization. And I am going to drop the link in case you're curious to check out this solution. I'm going to drop a link to where you can find that solution in AppSource. That's going in the chat right now. So if you want to check that out, you can follow that link to go grab that if you think that's of particular interest and value. So just from an architectural standpoint, it's basically two different Power Platform solutions. One is a base solution, which has kind of a template components. And then there's a procurement use case specific solution that layers on top. It leverages that base solution. But that base solution is also going to facilitate likely additional templates and other sort of scenarios within SAP that I would imagine are coming down the road. Again, I don't have any definitive word from the product group, but from an architecture standpoint, it certainly looks like they're architecting with that sort of thing in mind. And this link is also clickable. That should take you to the same exact place as the link that I just dropped in the chat if you're interested in checking out the SAP procurement solution template. And then there was also community announcements. So this is not necessarily like a product or service pillar within the platform or even a category like doing solutions with SAP or governance, but community is big, and it's a theme around the platform, and especially when we bring the community together at the conference. And so some of the key community announcements, there were really two big ones. One was just an invitation for people to get more involved. Again, we have 5.2 million people engaging regularly, monthly, within the community. The super users group is a great way to get involved. So if you are engaged in the platform, want to engage in a deeper way, feel free to check out the super users group and jump in. You can help guide people, help them understand the platform, and contribute to the community in that way. Giving back is a great way to kind of pay it forward. And then also the Powerup Program, which is a program we announced last year at the conference. So this program is to facilitate career advancement for individuals that are looking to basically grow their careers by adding low-code development skills on the Power Platform. So it's sort of a boot camp style program that you go through. At the end of it, there's some validation checks. You get badges and basically get credentialed as being skilled to develop solutions on the Power Platform at the end of the program. And it's intended for those who have never done software development, don't know how to build digital apps, but understand that, hey, this is the way forward. Maybe they haven't interacted with AI. They want to learn more about that. They know that these skills are going to be valuable and even more valuable as they continue on in their career and progress, and they want to build some skills around that. So we built a whole program to facilitate that. The key announcement this year was, hey, look, we're expanding this program. We're not just going to cater to individuals kind of on a one-by-one sign-up basis, but we're now expanding to groups. So we can now do cohorts, and not only groups, but also those groups can be like dedicated from an enterprise or an organization. So to the extent that maybe there's a group of people within your organization that want to take advantage of this program, go through it together, and then have that camaraderie and energy coming out of the program to continue driving value for your organization, that's a great way to do it. So obviously, link in the slide right here. The slides will be provided in a follow-up email after we wrap today's presentation. So you'll have the link in the slides, and then you can also click it right here to learn more about the Powerup program. For those of you on the line who may be wondering, hey, you missed one of the key service and product pillars for your low-code platform, don't worry, it's here. So one of the reasons why I held Power BI off for last is number one, just from like an organizational focus area standpoint, and it's a little weird that Power BI is absolutely part of the Power Platform, but from like a skilling standpoint and from a focus standpoint, we have dedicated resources within Microsoft that just focus on Power BI. So those of us that are pinned to the platform kind of leave the Power BI stuff to those guys. So I don't go as deep on Power BI, but there were a lot of great announcements at the conference. So we'll touch on some of those. And then also we've announced Fabric for just an analytics platform for enterprises. It includes Power BI capabilities and a lot more around it as well. If your organization has Power BI licensing, you're already getting Fabric capabilities. So I'm not the expert in Power BI and Fabric, and there's a lot of new content coming out, a lot to understand and digest around how we're evolving our analytics platform within Microsoft. So just wanted to save this kind of for last, but we'll touch on some key things. Again, Copilot, theme of the conference. So Power BI Copilot is in public preview now. So that's super exciting. I know a lot of people were waiting for that. Exciting that it's now in public preview. And then also dark mode. I love dark mode. A lot of people that I work with, I know, prefer dark mode. If you don't like dark mode, that's fine. But most people I know are like, yes, give me a dim or dark mode of some sort when I'm working in my applications. Don't want to be staring at like bright white screens all day for those of us that are at our computers a lot. So that's coming in November, which is exciting. And then kind of the Fabric piece of the story, expanding the capabilities of Power BI, linking it into data lakes and a broad enterprise-grade analytics platform. Fabric is lake-centric. It's open specifically for Power Platform. There's Dataverse shortcuts in public preview for Fabric, so that's really exciting. So as things evolve over into Fabric, it's not like Power BI is drifting away from the Power Platform. There's still going to be those native integrations. You're still going to be able to do all the great stuff, embedding your Power BI reports within Power Apps, embedding Power Apps within your Power BI reports, doing so with an enterprise-grade platform. And also just this quick link here for the Fabric release plans. If you're really deep on the analytics side of things, you want to learn more, you want to see what's coming, this is a great place to see what's sort of coming down the pipeline. And then we do have one poll question around Fabric. So this is just sort of to capture information. If you want to learn more about Power BI and Fabric, or if you're completely new to it, again, like we kind of focus on the other pillars of the Power Platform just from how Microsoft aligns us, but we have peers and resources that we would love to point you to do those deep dives on Power BI and Fabric, or even like we can work together with those peers. If you have a solution that's going to be leveraging all the components within the Power Platform, we'll put our heads together and do our best to help you guys understand what's possible and how to get value out of the Microsoft Cloud. So go ahead and let us know if you want to learn more about Fabric so that we can continue that conversation and facilitate that for you. And I'll give just a quick minute before I move on. Well, we're just about at time. So I'm going to keep moving just in the interest of time, but I think the poll question is going to stay live. So we've been talking a lot about more announcements coming at Ignite. So the next poll question is, hey, have you registered for Ignite? So maybe you have. Yes, if you've registered for Ignite, great. If you got one of those coveted in-person slots to actually go out to Seattle for Ignite, good on you, because it's sold out. So for those of us who haven't registered or aren't traveling out to Ignite, we can still participate virtually, which is great. So in case you haven't registered yet, but you are interested, you want to stay tight to the latest and greatest that's coming for Power Platform announcements, here is where you can register for Microsoft Ignite. So you can click this link right here. I think that takes you to the main Ignite page, and there's a register button, or you can follow the QR code link. And we have this gift playing here. So the dates here, Microsoft, November 14th through 17th, that's kind of like the full week for Ignite. The 15th and 16th are the key days with the keynotes and the main presentations. So just from a scheduling standpoint, do want to call that out. I know I'm a minute over, and I promise we just have one more question because we do it every time we do the Master Series. We always want to hear what other topics you're interested in hearing from us about. So we have some kind of out-of-the-box options. Again, we already have Power Pages, including Power Pages Copilot queued up for next week, so don't miss that. That there will be a registration link and QR code on the next slide. If you have other ideas off the top of your head, feel free to drop those in the chat. But all these options are going to be in the poll that gets launched in the meeting. So again, in the interest of time, since I know I'm already over, I'm going to keep moving so that I can show you guys this QR code for next week's Power Platform Master Series, focusing on using AI to rapidly build rich and engaging websites. So to productize that statement, we're focusing on Copilot and Power Pages. So that's all I have from an announcement standpoint, from recapping the conference. Hopefully, for those of you who attended the conference and also attend this meeting, hopefully the AC wasn't cranked all the way down for you while you were attending this meeting. I heard that it was like super chilly at the conference and everyone was throwing on sweatshirts because they had the AC really cranked up. So hopefully this one was a little bit more comfortable. Hopefully you learned something new about what's coming on the Power Platform, and hopefully you're excited as this community grows. Thank you guys all for your time. 2 minutes over. Appreciate you hanging with me. If there are questions in the chat, we will follow up with you. This meeting is being recorded, and the slides and the meeting recording will go out in an email shortly after we wrap. If not by end of day today, early tomorrow. I'm kind of sticking it to my colleagues who will be taking care of that. So hopefully they can meet those timelines. Again, yeah, thank you so much for hanging with us today. With that, have a great day. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch you next week for Power Pages.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Question from Mr. JJ Worthen. I will hang on the line. Oh, he may have dropped. That's okay. All right. I will catch everyone next week.